very good.
Yeah, 104 are waiting, and we're going to let them in. What do you say, Elch? Are we?
Yeah, I think we're about ready. Let me share the music here and we can.
Are we live on Facebook?
We are, yes.
Hi, Facebook. Hi, YouTube. Happy Vietnam Veterans Day.
Hi, Facebook.
Oh, what a crowd. Hey, Carl, good to see you. Becky, Larry, Harold, Jim Roberts, Connie, Michelle. Oh, this is terrific. Ron Worstel, good to see you. Welcome, everybody, to our Veterans Breakfast Club Happy Hour. This is a special edition. This is our Vietnam Veterans Day edition of our Veterans Breakfast Club Happy Hour. I am Todd DiPastino. I'm the director of the Veterans Breakfast Club. We hold veteran storytelling programs. We know that I think we have 125 people coming in right now. More and more are coming in. We probably had 50 reservations in the past 24 hours. So we have, last I checked, we were about 210 people showing up. So I'm going to wait a little bit, kill some time, allow some people to come in from the waiting room. And I see we have Pastor Mike with us. Hello, Pastor Mike. Thank you for joining us.
Yes.
And I just want to, I know we have a lot of people from kind of around the country and joining us for the first time. So I would welcome everybody. I want to say happy Vietnam Veterans Day to all our Vietnam veterans who are here tonight. I want to introduce myself. I'm Todd DiPastino. We are a nonprofit. The Veterans Breakfast Club is a nonprofit based in Pittsburgh that has veteran storytelling events. And we've been doing these in-person, face-to-face storytelling events since the fall of 2008. Last year, we went virtual, and it's been wonderful because we've had people join us from all over the country and all over the world.
When she
And
gives
tonight
me
is no
this
exception. I know that we'll have a lot of people who are here for the first time from all over the country and a lot of Vietnam veterans. By my last count, we had, at least 130 Vietnam veterans signed up for this event. And we hope to get everybody to at least say hi and acknowledge our tribute tonight. And that's what this is. I mean, Vietnam Veterans Day is such an unusual holiday. It's March 29th. It's not a date that many people commemorate. It's not like VJ Day or Pearl Harbor Day. It's a date really to celebrate a generation of veterans who served in the military at a time when such service was not popular. And they're the only generation of veterans like that. And that's because of the terrible treatment that Vietnam veterans received 50 years ago when they returned home. They were neglected at best. They were scorned at worst. And it was really the defining trauma of the Vietnam generation. I think the Vietnam veterans were traumatized more by the homecoming than by anything that happened in Vietnam. And so Vietnam Veterans Day is really our attempt. And I say our because I'm not a veteran and I don't come from a military family. It's our attempt, our non-veterans attempt, the public's attempt, I think, to make a humble act of contrition, of sorrow for how veterans were treated 50 years ago when they returned home. And I also think it's a day to celebrate our Vietnam veterans because how so many of you responded to that trauma is remarkable.
This is really cool.
So many of you came home and were able to not only heal yourselves, but heal the nation of many of the scars of the Vietnam War. And you did it by reaching out and helping others. You, more than any other generation of veterans, is the generation that reaches both to the older veterans who came before you and the younger veterans who have come after you. When there's a serviceman or woman in a nursing home, a World War II veteran who's lonely, you're the ones who visit. When our servicemen and women come back from overseas, who is there at the airport to greet them? You are. It's the Vietnam veterans. You are the most selfless generation of veterans we have. And I think that was born of the trauma that you experienced. Never again will one generation neglect another generation of veterans.
We'll never let that happen, Todd.
Absolutely. As long as you're around, that will not happen. And that to me is so noble and ennobling, and it's inspiring. I am 55 years old. I'm old enough to remember the Vietnam War, but I'm too young to have served in it. As I said this afternoon to another group, Vietnam veterans are, I feel, a kinship with them as if they are the older brothers and sisters I never had. And those of you who have older brothers and sisters, you know the older brother or sister is always looked up to. And I will always look up to you. I will always admire you. And I will always sit with bated breath to hear the stories that you have to share. And I'm grateful that so many of you have been able to share your stories with me over the years. And we're going to do a little bit of that tonight. So I just wanted to say that. I just want to make those comments by way of explaining why it was so important to me that we do recognize Vietnam Veterans Day and recognize it as a day for celebration, because you are worthy of celebration. Before we go on, Pastor Mike Werschman, your father was a Vietnam veteran, you yourself an Air Force veteran. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for offering the benediction tonight. I'm sorry, the invocation.
Thank you.
Invocation.
I knew we were just starting. Thank you, Tom. It is a great honor. In April of 1975, I was in school. I missed Vietnam by 1 year, but I was in school at Clark Air Force Base in the Philippines. And so I had the great blessing of being able to see about 4,000 Amerasian babies from Vietnam, South Vietnam, come through Clark Air Force Base to the United States to be adopted. And my high school shut down, and I'll never forget the impact of seeing those beautiful little babies and all the men and equipment that came through Clark because at the end of the war. And so I've devoted my life to being able to help as many veterans get off the streets here in Pittsburgh and around the country. So I'm honored to be with you tonight, Todd, and all my brothers and sisters. As we pray, I just wanted to say welcome home. Let us pray. Let us pray.
I'm gonna take that dick in my booty hole.
Oh boy.
Todd, Pastor Mike's.
Yes, thank you. Almighty God, we come to you this National Vietnam Veterans Day to celebrate and to remember those great men and women who paid the ultimate sacrifice in laying down their lives in service to our country during the Vietnam War. We remember before you with such grateful hearts these men and women who in the day of decision ventured much for all the liberties we now enjoy. We bring before you our nation and all those that lead our nation, all those in authority. Give them wisdom and strength to know and to do your will. We bring before you all the men and women of our armed forces today at home and abroad. We especially remember today those in our military who are facing harm's way, those in Iraq, those in Afghanistan, those in all the nations that we are defending. Defend each of our brothers and our sisters day by day with your heavenly grace, and give them great strength to face the trials, and give them courage to face the perils before them. We also remember all of our veterans who are here today. We remember the veterans and their families of those who are serving and those who have served. We especially remember our Gold Star mothers, our Gold Star wives, and all the families of loved ones lost in the Vietnam War and all wars. We bring before you all the injured soldiers, so many, all of our veterans in our hospitals throughout our nation, literally thousands, Lord. We pray that you would heal the wounded and comfort those veterans who are dying, restore the dignity of all homeless veterans. We remember all of our nation's heroes. Lord, we will never forget the MIAs and POWs from the Vietnam War and all wars who have yet to come home.
That's a TV.
We cry out to you to bring them home, Lord. We will not forget them. We thank you for this evening, where we will never forget the sacrifices of so many from the Vietnam War. We thank you for your mercies are eternal. In your mighty name we pray. Amen.
Man,
Amen.
Thank you, Pastor Mike. Thank you for that wonderful invocation, as always. Now we don't usually do this, but we're going to do the presentation of the colors with the national anthem. And we have the Joint Service Color Guard on video presenting it. Ellie, do you want to share that?
Yes, I can share that.
All right.
Can you see?
just a blank screen, El.
Okay. My computer's a bit slow today.
Let me try it. I'm better at this anyhow. You're just a punk kid. So
The
what do you
best
know?
punk kid ever.
Thank you.
Usually you don't know that in rehearsal for all this, mine was screwing up the entire time and she was the only one able to do it. So here we go.
Colors, ready, set, on. On. Colors turn, on.
Right. All right. That was great. Okay. You know, we planned this program with two other wonderful local organizations. One is the Vietnam Veterans of America, Chapter 862, which I believe is the third largest chapter in the nation. Is that correct? Number 3, third largest chapter in the nation. And also with Vietnam Veterans Incorporated, another organization that has been around since at least the early 1980s. And we're very grateful to have so many of the members of VVI and VVA 862 here. And I'd like to thank Larry Guggens, who is the president of Vietnam Veterans of America, Chapter 862, and also the state president of the Vietnam Veterans of America, Pennsylvania state president. Thank you, Larry, for all the help and guidance you gave us in putting this together tonight. And I want to invite you to say a few words.
Thanks, Todd. First of all, we need to be thanking you. I want to let you know how this kind of got started. Clem Blazewick, myself, and some members of VVI, Vietnam Veterans Incorporated, wanted to do something special on this day for veterans. And so when I brought it up, and I can't remember, Todd, why you were there, but when we talked about that, he said, well, you know, we'd like to play and help out.
Mm-hmm.
And Todd calls me the next day and says, why are you guys doing it for yourself? He said, I want to do it.
Oh, okay.
And that's exactly his words. And I said, well, Todd, VVI and chapter VVA, you know, we want to kind of participate. He said, no, I don't want to do it. And I said, nah, I'll make you a deal. We'll do it together. But it's this, what we're doing tonight is because of the work that Todd and all of the team, I won't name Ellie, you know Ellie, of course, Sean, very well, and they all got together and they put this together. So we need to thank you, Todd, for remembering us. And that introduction was amazing. Ellie must have written it for you, but it was very good. But thank you for all of those comments for all of us here in Southwestern Pennsylvania. This day is long overdue. And you'll probably talk to a few folks and relay some stories as to what happened to the Vietnam veterans when they came home. And I bet everybody here knows what we're talking about. But what happened over the last 50 years is there was talk, but there was no action. Nothing really occurred. The early 80s, Vietnam Veterans of America with a group in New York area started the Vietnam Veterans of America, finally just saying, this is enough. We've had it. We're going to act. And what they wanted was representation in our government and representation in the veterans. And it worked. And they got going and got it started. And we have a lot of thanks for the small group that got it going. Our chapter started in 2000 with the same type of folks that got our chapter going, and started with, I think, 35. There's others that I wasn't part of the chapter at that time, but I think it started with 35, and through those 35 grown to currently 840 members. The one reason why we are the largest chapter, of course, is we're the only chapter in Southwestern Pennsylvania. So we do have the ability to recruit if you want more. But it does take work, and we all do it every day just to get folks doing. And our mission, as you said, Todd, is never again will one generation of veterans abandon another. But in the meantime, what we want to do is help any veterans that we can, help them in any way we can. Now, we're all in our 70s, so we're not going to go up there and dig a lot of ditches, and we're not going to build a lot of decks for people, but we can help facilitate that. And also work with the VA and the support that the VA will give our veterans. But that's kind of what today is all about. It's also, as you know, there's a 50th anniversary commemorating the Vietnam War. Started in, you'll have to help me, Todd, 2015 or thereabouts, 16, yes. And goes on to 2025. And from that, was the first time our national government, I don't want to sound bad about this, but
did the government just mute him?
I think the government muted him. Yes. I'm sorry about that, Larry. We all got muted, probably for a good reason. So I'm gonna unmute you. I'm gonna ask you. There you go.
I did it. Yeah. I think Todd did it.
Thank
Todd
you,
always does it, Mary. He always does it. But
the
you can't see it. But
you can't bring out the hook, so you gotta,
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So anyway, but there is a pin that can go to any Vietnam era veteran. If you want one, you can contact Todd or Sean or Ellie, but not me. No, you can contact me. Todd will get it to me, and we'll get one to you.
Yes.
All right. But they also came out 2-3 years ago with another similar lapel pin. I know it's reflecting. I'm trying to get it not to. There it goes. Lapel pin for spouses of veterans who may have passed away. And not Gold Star mothers, but spouses of veterans, and the veteran has already passed away, so we can't give them the pin to wear, but we can give one to the spouse of that veteran. And I have plenty of those, and again, same contact. So they came out with that, and on the back of both of them, by the way, it has a little saying, "A grateful nation thanks you." Now, I don't want to be sarcastic, and I don't mean this to come out sarcastic, but it took 40 years. 45 years for that to come out, but at least it is there, and we can honor veterans that way. But what's more important is what Todd and Ellie and Sean are doing here. That means more to us, I believe, at least to me, than a pin. And the fact that there are non-veterans and veterans alike from other wars that are honoring us by thanking us for our time and what we did at the time in the defense of our country. So I just want to mostly say, Todd, thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for the Veterans Breakfast Club, where you interview service members from all wars and family members. That helps veterans, I want to say more than you think, but I know it does now. But it really, really does. They're outward, they're communicating, they're talking, and they're breaking out of their shell that they stayed in for 50 years, 40, 50 years, whatever it might have been. So our thanks goes to you for everything you're doing, the Veterans Breakfast Club is doing, and everybody that attends your meeting. So that's really my message to everyone. If you would like to join either one of those chapters, VVI or VVA, Todd can give you some information. All we really want to do in both of the organizations is to pass information to Vietnam era veterans. Oh, by the way, it has been passed by law just a week ago, Todd, or a week and 10 days ago, that the Vietnam era now starts in 1955, 55 to 75. It took, again, 50 years to recognize that there were veterans in the Vietnam or Southeast Asia in 1955. So if you were unable to join VVA, Vietnam Veterans of America, because of their restrictions, very soon they'll change not the Constitution, well, the Constitution, yes, also, but they'll change the charter so that you can join Vietnam Veterans of America. So, Todd, that's really all I wanted to say. Do you have any questions, Todd?
Mary has a question.
Mary.
Yeah.
Hi, Mary.
Hi, Larry. That was wonderful. I think it's terrific. And you guys might remember, I do a lot of tours, and one of them is at the Vietnam Wall, of course. And so I always do talk about how the years are 59 to 75, because most people think it's later. But Reagan's the one that pushed it back to get, those who died before the actual start of hostilities, added to the wall. Is bumping this back to 55? Are we gonna see a big slew of added names to the wall, do you think? Or
Mary, my wife asked me the same question.
Oh, so brilliant minds think alike. I got it.
I'm gonna give you my opinion.
Okay.
I don't think so.
Really?
Because as you know, the wall starts from the middle out.
Right. There's room.
So some of those belong in the middle.
Yeah, but what they do is they add them as close as possible.
Yeah.
Maya Lynn's she left space. So, I mean, there was a one added to like the third panel last year, 2 years ago.
Well,
Larry,
and the other
I think
part,
I've got some input to that, Larry.
just 1 second. The other part of it is to recognize that they lost their life while they were there. And that I don't have the answer to. Yeah, someone else might though. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Larry, I have some information on that. I think the oldest casualty now on the wall dates back to 1956.
Really? Oh, okay.
So even though it said 59 to 75, those previous casualties were picked up. And that is the first known casualty in the war or in Vietnam.
Yeah, Paul, I did not know that, but that's good. Good. So we'll have to see. That would be up to the Veterans Memorial Organization. I forget the name of Mary down in Washington. Yeah, I certainly hope so. Certainly hope so.
That's really DOD that makes that decision.
Is it? Yeah. Okay.
DOD makes that call. Yeah.
Yeah. Just I was back when I talked about the pin. The pin is available to anybody from 1955 on. They did do that when they did the 50th commemoration. So that is available. But there are some other, I think, places that are written different 59 on. And especially our Vietnam Veterans of America says 59. But they're in the process of changing that. And it can't come fast enough.
John Weinheimer is here from Vietnam Veterans Incorporated, another wonderful organization that we've worked with over the years. And thank you, John. You're the ones who, you in particular, are the one who worked so hard to get that double CD of pirated music into every welcome home box that we sent out, and we sent out 100 of them. Thank you very much, John.
Oh, you're quite welcome, Todd. It was my pleasure to do that. And I'd like to first off just say welcome home to all my brothers and sisters. We had a wonderful memorial down at the Vietnam Memorial today, and it was very touching what went on. But just a little bit about VVI. VVI was created in 1981. And how it got started was as not too much, I'm going to say like in the South Hills area, but a lot of our veterans were being shunned by the VFWs and American Legions and not being very welcomed if they did get in. So a bunch of guys, I think there was about 20 to start, said, well, heck on them. We're going to start our own organization. And that's how VVI started. And from those 20 guys in 1981, right now, we're about 600 and some strong. Most of our members are within Western Pennsylvania, but we do have, there's about 50 that are all throughout the United States, Florida, California. And we are a 403B organization. You know, we're nonprofit. We rely strictly on donations to survive. And our mission is to help its brothers, helping brothers and sisters. So we do a lot of volunteering out at the VA in Aspinwall. We have a monthly cookout for the Veterans Daycare Center, of which it's amazing how we take for granted a hot dog or a hamburger that we can have anytime. Well, these gentlemen and ladies can't have that. It just does your heart good to see that they don't even want to talk to you. They just want to have, just let me eat my hot dog or my hamburger and my baked beans and my potato salad and let me alone. And so that's one of the things we do. And then also before the pandemic, what we did was we give out coffee and donuts down at Heroes Hall in Oakland. And what's that all about is that we have a lot of people that come in from
hello.
Yeah, I mean, they come from all over. They come from Johnstown, West Virginia.
I would like to say something.
Yes.
You can go ahead. I'm sorry, John.
Okay. But a lot of those gentlemen and women that come in, they can't eat breakfast and that because they have to have blood work done and things like that. And they're coming in on a shuttle that, you know, maybe leaves at 5 o'clock in the morning and it doesn't go back home till 1, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So we serve them donuts and coffee that we get from donations from like Giant Eagle and Costco's. And that's another thing. They love VVI on Monday mornings. There's guys that even would schedule their appointments so they could be there on Monday morning because we had pies and cakes and donuts. In fact, the record for one day, 4.5 hours, we give out over 50 dozen donuts. That's 600 and some donuts in a 4-hour period. But and we do I like a lot of volunteer work. We do funerals and we do parades but the biggest thing right now is there's so many Vietnam men and women that have no clue of the benefits they need and they earned. or they think oh, I don't want to take that from somebody who really needs it. People don't realize the more people we have, the better it is for the Vietnam vets and the benefits. Because it's just like the service. If you don't use it, you're going to lose it. So if they don't meet their budget as far as using it for the year, the next year they're going to give less money. So that's Vietnam vets vision. And I joined back in '83, but I was a picnic vet. We have a picnic every year. It's called a reunion picnic. And we get, oh God, about 150 guys and ladies and family members that come together out at North Park now. And it's just a wonderful time. So we have that coming up. Now, last year we had to cancel because of coronavirus, and that was the first one that was canceled since 1981. But I want to reach out that anybody, as Larry said, we are here to help you. If you need any information, please contact Todd or you can contact us. We'd love you to become a member. And the criteria for being a regular member of VVI is that you had to have boots on the ground for at least 1 hour. So that doesn't mean you can't join VVI, because we have a lot of associate members. And the only difference between an associate member and a regular member is that an associate member can't be an officer or a board member, and they can't be in the honor guard and vote. But other than that, all the benefits of VVI are to anybody that's out there. And we've had so many gentlemen just within, I'm going to say the last 5 years, that we got a hold, they had no benefits, and now they're 100%. It's just ludicrous that all those years that they lost that availability to have the benefits that they earned. And on a sad note, on a sad note, I have to let everybody know, I don't know, we lost one of our honorable, fantastic honor guard members yesterday. His name was Ted Turek. Had a massive heart attack and passed away, or he would be here today with us. And I just want everybody to try to keep his wife Paula in your prayers tonight, and just think of him. But also, Ted was one that didn't have no benefits. He didn't even know that he was entitled to any benefits, and now he's 65%. So there he is. But what a wonderful guy, an individual he was, and he's going to be surely missed by everybody that knew him, whether in VVI or in life. He was a mailman, I think, for 40 some years. So, but with that, like I said, if anybody is interested, we'd love to have you as a member of VVI. You can contact me or Todd and or Larry, and they'll give you the information. Our dues are astronomical. They're $15 a year. A life membership is $125. So we're not here as a money grabbing organization. And in fact, I would have, I thank God for our president, Robert Butchie Burke. I got to meet him with a tragedy. A buddy of mine that I played baseball with committed suicide. And I went to his wake. He didn't want a funeral, but Butchie and the honor guard were there to do what we call the last salute. And it was so overwhelming. I mean, I just lost it. So after the service, I had to go to Butch and say, hey, thank you so much for doing this for my friend. And he said, well, are you a Vietnam vet? I said, oh, yeah, I joined in '83, and I'm, in and out, and I was a picnic vet. And he said, well, do you want to get back in? I said, well, yeah, So I give him my $15. He said, meet me at the wake. And if anybody knows Butchie, I mean, he'd give you all the information. You better have a lot of pockets, because he's going to load you up. but
Thank you.
he's the one that took me under his wing. And if you would have told me in 2010 I was going to be vice president of VVI, I would have told you hit your head too many times when you was a kid. But it is an honor beyond belief for me to represent VVI and to help all the veterans that I meet. And a lot of it is just sitting down and talking with them. Like the daycare center. These people are just lonely. Just sit down and talk to them. You know, it's just a heartfelt good thing. And maybe Clem can add maybe a little bit to that. But that's basically what VVI is and their mission in life.
Thank you, John. And anybody who wants to interested in joining the local VVI here in Pittsburgh or VVA 862 can contact me, and I can put you in touch with John and Larry. And I thank you again so much for your participation. And I also, I really need to thank. There's one person I need to thank a heck of a lot, and that's Megan Reagan from Humana. I have a tendency to get very excited about new programs and really, want to take on a big, ambitious project. And I often find myself in over my head, and I rely on people to help out, to bail me out when I get in over my head. That was very much the case with this event, especially with the welcome home boxes. I didn't realize how, I'm not a math guy, so I didn't realize how many 100 boxes actually meant. And Megan Reagan really did bail me out, as did Humana. They were wonderful in supporting the event, in paying for a lot of the items that went in the boxes. Megan is the Veterans Community Executive at Humana. Megan, thank you so much for all the work, not only the financial support to make this event possible, especially the welcome home boxes, but I know you put in a lot of hours getting the addresses just right, correcting the addresses when we got them wrong, and making sure that they all got into the UPS stream. I'm very, very grateful to you, Megan. Thank you.
You're very welcome. It was such an honor to be able to help. I love it when you throw ideas out, and I love being able to work with you to conquer that mission. So I know it takes a lot on both ends. I'm very grateful for your team as well. Ellie is very responsive quickly, helping me get things figured out on my end. So I am a veteran myself. I served in the Air Force. I have a lot of family that has served in the military and Vietnam veterans in my family. And it was truly an honor to be a part of this event and to recognize everyone for your service, for all the sacrifices made by you, but also your families to protect our freedoms for this great nation. And I have two teammates on here as well. I have Margie Pruitt and I have Kathy Lawson. There are my team. They're my two gals on my team here to do more for veterans, to serve and honor all of you. And they both are in the Pittsburgh area. So they're my gals with the boots on the ground there. And Kathy, would you like to jump on and say anything real quick?
Well, first of all, I want to thank everybody for their service. And if you guys need help with your benefits, we're more than happy to, get you connected with the veteran service officers. We're more than happy to make sure that, you're getting your benefits that you've worked for. And so we do have a very nice veterans program that has like a $55 give back. You do need to be making sure that you've got another source for your medications or you're using the VA. That's cool. But there are other things that we'd be more than happy to help you do. Obviously, as you know, how often we've sponsored the Veterans Breakfast Club. If you have an event or if you have a VFW that needs some help, we're going to be doing a blood and food drive with the Troy Hill VFW coming up relatively soon. So if you guys are trying to do something for your organization and there's something that we can reach out and do some volunteer work, in a totally selfish way, that's a great way to get Humana's name out there. So we will work for publicity.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Kathy, and I'll also say that if you are an organization that wants to have a pinning ceremony for Vietnam veterans, Humana is just a wonderful partner for that. I know that you were, you're one of the commemorative partners for the 50th anniversary of the Vietnam War. and you can help make that happen.
Yep. Yep. No. And as much as I love you guys, I have to go get back to work, but thank you so much for having us. And thank you so much for your service. I really appreciate it. But my husband was really looking forward to the rest of the event. So
good. Get out of here. Hey, good, Paul. Thank you for joining us, Paul. I appreciate it.
I actually have my dad's side cap from when he was with Chaplain with 3rd Mardiv by the DMZ.
Oh, how nice. Oh, how great. How great.
Hey, Joe,
Megan, thank
Todd,
you. Yes.
Can I say something? Those boxes that you did up were fantastic. I got this placemat from a young lady. And while we're on air, I would like to thank her. Her name is Layla Vates. And I'm going to put this on my table. This is a placemat.
Oh.
You can see it, and I'll read it to you. It says, "Thank you from a grateful nation to all who have and do serve, honoring and remembering all who have fallen. And we are here to help you from your friends, the FOR Club, Layla Vates." And that's so very meaningful that this young lady took her time to make this for me. And those boxes were wonderful. And along with that, I have my Tiger beer.
That's good. I'm glad it came intact. That was important. Very good.
But
very good.
You did a wonderful job, Todd. I mean, this is an amazing program, and I know all the hard work that you and Larry and Clem and everybody that was involved. I don't know where Kenny is right now, but God bless you all for what you do for all us Vietnam vets. Very thankful.
John DeLallo has his hand up. John DeLallo.
Yes, sir. Sorry about that. Took me a while to unmute.
Or Mr. DeLallo, I should call you. I'm sorry.
Well, you called me professor if you like. The good news is, or the bad news, I should say, is that the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania is really in trouble as far as substitute teachers. And I had clearances from last year so that I could work with the football team. And all I had to do was pay the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania another $22 just to flip me to a certificate that now says employment instead of volunteer. So it ain't about the money. You know, I'm getting $110 a day to teach the kids. But I put a little post out on the chat, and I got to tell you, I was at the high school today. It's my first time working with the high school kids, and it was absolutely marvelous. I reminded each and every one of them, it was a social studies class, that today was Vietnam, veterans, remembrance and Memorial Day. And I don't think I ever felt so good as having so many of those kids through nine periods of classroom coming up to me afterwards and looking at me and saying, "Thank you for your service." And all I did was try to encourage them to go home and find out if their grandfather perhaps had served, or maybe an aunt, in the nurse corps, or a lot of women served in Vietnam. And it was, I was excited today. I really was. I don't think the patriotism is lost on our high school kids. And with that, I taught the fourth graders last Thursday.
And I want to hear more about that on Wednesday morning when we have our program. And I wanted to let everybody know that everybody is invited to all our events. We have a virtual breakfast Wednesday mornings at 9. And you won't be there. You'll probably be substitute teaching, huh? Won't you, John?
I'll probably be teaching. I'll make it real quick. I'm teaching a fourth grade class last Thursday. And I read the checklist 4 times. And it clearly stated, you do this, 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 and the fourth thing you do is the pledge. And I read it again, the pledge. Got this, right? I was mortified, forgot about the pledge. These are 10-year-old children at the Washington Elementary School in Bethel Park. They stopped me cold and said, "Mr. D, we're supposed to do the pledge. And I got to tell you, and we did it. I mean, right now, and I'm overjoyed. I mean, I just want to go and kiss all their parents on the cheek and tell them, this is just marvelous. These are 10-year-old kids schooling me, a 20-year veteran of the Air Force, a Vietnam veteran, and these are 10-year-old kids schooling me on Mr. D. We got to do the pledge.
I hope you survived life as a substitute teacher, John, and we want to hear all those stories because it sounds like a comedy movie in the making.
No, quite the contrary. I got to tell you, Todd, I'm going to mute myself here momentarily, but so far, it's been fourth grade and high school sophomores, and it has been an absolute thrill to talk to these kids and interact with them, and it's just great. I made the mistake of saying that I'd do it for free, and I was told don't ever repeat that in front of a teacher or a substitute teacher because you'll get lynched.
Thank you, John. Thank you, John. I'm going to have to interrupt you because I know that Margie Pruitt.
That's okay. Go for
it. Margie Pruitt from Humana has been a wonderful partner and with the Veterans Breakfast Club for quite some time. And I know that you want to pay tribute to our Vietnam veterans.
Oh, thank you so much. I just want to let you know, this weekend I worked a trade show, and each and every veteran, I say thank you for my freedom. I know that you have everything to do with it. And I also extend that to all of your families. I truly, was a part, I was alive and understanding what was happening with the Vietnam War. And I just want to embrace the fact that I was too young to help that out. But through my brothers, I got to some connection with some veterans and helped it out from just my little corner, of the world. And that's all we can do. So have a beautiful rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you, Margie.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Margie. She's got a servant heart, Todd. I tell you that all the time. And hearing about all the schools and what's going on with the kiddos, Margie's running an effort there in her area to get a bunch of thank you for your service and thinking of you cards filled out by elementary schools, and we're sending them off to VA homes and nursing homes and just to help with that social isolation. So if anybody wants to partake in that, because I hear there's a lot of teachers and students being involved, we would love to help you honor a veteran during this time as well.
Yes. Megan, anybody who wants to help with that effort, please do contact me. I'll put you in contact with Megan. Absolutely. Those cards are so meaningful and so wonderful. I know we were able to get many of them in the boxes that we sent out. I want to give a shout out to Chartiers Bend Retirement Community, Stan Hoffman and Caitlin McNamara. I think we have a lot of veterans, Vietnam veterans, who are watching together at Chartiers Bend in Bridgeville. So thank you, and thank you for joining us. And I also want to invite Doug Frazier, another wonderful sponsor of this event, who helped to make it possible. Doug, you are the volunteer coordinator at Heartland Hospice. Thank you very much for coming on this event and for supporting it, for helping to get all those items in those welcome home boxes. Doug, I'm going to ask you to unmute if you can. There you are. I'll ask.
There we go. How's that?
There you go. How are you doing?
That good. How are you doing?
Good.
All right. Well, thank you for allowing me to participate in this momentous occasion today. My name is Doug Frazier. I'm a proud veteran, United States Army Field Artillery officer. And today we join the nation in thanking our Vietnam veterans. President Nixon chose today to be Vietnam Veterans Day in 1974, because on this day, 48 years ago, the last of our combat troops were withdrawn from Vietnam. Vietnam Veterans Day commemorates the sacrifices of Vietnam veterans and their families. We want to take this moment to recognize the men and women who were denied a proper welcome upon returning home after serving their country bravely and sacrificing so much. Many of you did not volunteer for this war, but all of you served proudly, leaving your loved ones behind with unknown futures ahead. We understand the role you played and the significance you made in a war that we may never fully understand. And as a fellow veteran, I know we cannot compare the service of other soldiers to the one you provided. You made a far greater sacrifice. All of our stories are unique, but none as overlooked and courageous as yours. Our Vietnam veterans went into an unforgiving place to serve in a war that they didn't create, only to return home to criticisms and harm from civilians. In past wars, our soldiers returned to ticker tape parades and crowds of praise, which is what you deserved as well. You have served our country honorably and certainly earned our gratitude and thanks. From everything you did during the time of need and everything you have continued to do since returning home. I have my volunteers, we made keychains. And if you look at it real quick, the green represents the jungles of Vietnam, and the yellow and red actually represents the South Vietnamese flag. And we also have pins and certificates as far as any veteran that wishes to have any of those items. And they could, if it's okay, if they could email you, that would be great. We know it's only a tiny token of appreciation, as we can never thank you enough for all that you've done. Thank you for allowing us to take part in today's event and help celebrate with you. Welcome home, Vietnam veterans.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. Thank you
Todd,
very much.
I'd like to
Yes.
add something to that. A misconception of the Vietnam War. 2/3 of the soldiers that served in Vietnam were volunteers. They weren't drafted. So they had a bigger volume of volunteers that willingly went to defend their country than probably most of the other wars.
I want to thank everybody who donated to the Welcome Home boxes. I want to say a word or two about those boxes. They were sent out, 100 of them, from a UPS store on Saturday afternoon. And I brought in 100 boxes, you could imagine, on a Saturday afternoon to a UPS store. And, it was quite a spectacle. And I walked in and I said, it was a store full of people. And, I kind of milked it. I said, these are gift boxes for Vietnam Veterans Day for 100 Vietnam veterans. And wouldn't you know, the entire store came out and helped to bring them in. And they wanted to hear about Vietnam Veterans Day. Some of them had heard of it, some of them hadn't. And it was a very heartwarming experience just getting them out. But I want to let people know we planned for 100 boxes. I know that we got way more requests for boxes than that. We may be up to 130 or 40 extra. We would like to fulfill that pledge and get those boxes out. So I just want to say, if you're on this call or if you're watching, from Facebook or YouTube, and you're a Vietnam veteran, and that is that you served anytime between 1955 to 1975, served anywhere during those 20 years, we would like to send you a welcome home box. Anybody who wants to help us contribute items to some more boxes and get them out, please do let me know. We will, I will be kind of packing up boxes and sending them out to people whose addresses we have. But let me know if you're a Vietnam veteran and you want a box. Feel free to just put it in the chat here on the Zoom side. If you're in the Zoom room, send me an email at todd.dpastina or todd@veteransbreakfastclub.org. That's todd@veteransbreakfastclub.org. And I'm not going to read all the names to the people who sponsored these boxes. I'm very grateful for their donations. I'm putting up their names here on the screen for you to see. But I won't take the time to read them all. We will publish them. We will publish a thank you to all of them, and we're very grateful for their support. I'd like to know if Director Don Koenig is on from the VA Pittsburgh Healthcare System.
Yes, sir.
Don, are you here?
I am, Todd.
Oh, Don, thank you so much for coming. I know you're busy. I saw you on another meeting today. You're a very, very busy person. You are a Navy veteran. And I just want to let people know that Don Koenig, who is the director of the VA Pittsburgh Healthcare System, is one of the most eloquent advocates for veterans you will ever hear. I will see you on the news from time to time, and I'm always so impressed by how just perfectly you put the veteran's case and the need to serve our veterans. And I'm very grateful that you're taking the time out here on your Monday night to join us and say a few words.
Oh, thanks so much, Todd. Thank you for that very kind introduction. It's my deep honor to be here to join you all to thank and honor our Vietnam veterans and their families. VA, the Department of Veterans Affairs in VA Pittsburgh has been a partner in the Vietnam War 50th Anniversary Commemoration since its start by DOD as an effort to honor all who served on active duty, as we've heard, between November 1 of 55 and May of 1975. And by presidential proclamation, the commemoration extends from Memorial Day in 2012 up through Veterans Day 2025. This commemoration is focused specifically on thanking and honoring our 6 million plus living Vietnam veterans and the 9 million families of those who served during the Vietnam War period. I especially want to point out that during the Vietnam War, more than 265,000 American women served in the military. 11,000 women served in country, 90% working as volunteer nurses. Their responsibilities include caring for patients involved in mass casualty situations who suffered amputations, life-altering wounds. While all military families endured the hardship of separation, uncertainty, and fear during deployments, the families of our Vietnam veterans also witnessed their husbands and wives, their sons and daughters, brothers and sisters, and fathers and mothers returning home to a nation that was in turmoil and radically different than the country they left when they went to war. They watched as the vast majority received no formal recognition for their service or welcome home ceremonies hosted by their communities. You service members who chose to honor our nation's call were often encouraged to travel home, not in uniform, but in civilian clothes. And those who were able sometimes quietly slipped back into the lives they had left, although they were profoundly changed by their experiences. And not unlike veterans who we see today returning from battlefields, those who served in Vietnam certainly came home with both physical and the unseen psychological and moral injuries of war. Sadly, many of those unseen injuries suffered by our Vietnam veterans went undiagnosed and were not understood by our medical community or our country as much as they are now. Veterans of Vietnam were left to meet those challenges without the breadth of assistance that's available today. It is important to note that the VA healthcare system that existed then is most certainly not the comprehensive VA healthcare system that we have today, where we are proud to welcome all veterans into today. As you all know, more than 58,000 veterans who fought in Vietnam never came home and never had the opportunity to marry and have children or grandchildren. Their future was cut short, their hopes and dreams along with it. And the families of those who didn't return experienced the painful loss of a loved one in the midst of a nation in turmoil, and sometimes without the collective support of their entire nation. I'd like to share with you for a moment, a poem written by U.S. Army helicopter pilot Michael O'Donnell. He wrote it in January 1970 while in country. He wrote it about 90 days before his craft crashed while on a rescue mission into Cambodia to retrieve survivors of another aircraft crash. It's called Letters from Pleiku. If you are able, save for them a place inside of you, and save one backward glance when you are leaving for the places they can no longer go. Be not ashamed to say you love them, though you may or may not have always. Take what they have left and what they have taught you with their dying, and keep it with your own. And in that time when men decide and feel safe to call the war insane, take one moment to embrace those gentle heroes you left behind. Michael O'Donnell and his crew were listed as MIA for over 28 years. The helo crash site was found, and the remains of the crew, including Michael O'Donnell's, were recovered and subsequently interred with full military honors in July 2001. Indeed, the true cost of war is not measured in dollars and cents, but in lives. Neighbors, friends, and families who come home with seen and unseen scars that need mending and extensive care, or do not come home at all. I'm a little older than Todd, but I too was too young to serve in Vietnam. I grew up as a young child, remembering every Thursday night Walter Cronkite announcing the mortality figures for the prior week of the Americans and the estimates for the North Vietnamese and Viet Cong. I remember that I was baffled as a 10 or 11-year-old hearing them say they're going to start peace talks, and then spent 6 months debating what city, what shaped table, and who should be invited to those talks. It had to be incredibly bewildering to those of you who were in country to see that kind of long drawn out. And I'm sure all of you remember, as was stated, 48 years ago today, the last troops withdrew after the Paris Peace Accords were assigned. And then we watched as the Army of the Republic of Vietnam was slowly ran back, overtaken out of their country. And who can forget the sight of the Operation Baby Lift, the thousands and thousands of orphans and Vietnamese refugees who were evacuated out before the war ended. And the final helicopter leaving the roof of the American Embassy in Saigon one day before South Vietnam essentially ceased to exist as a separate country and separate government. One of my proudest moments in terms of connecting with Vietnam veterans is that I went to undergrad and law school at George Washington University, and I was proudly there on Veterans Day 1982 for the dedication of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial, an incredible design by Maya Lin, and hundreds of thousands of people gathered there for President Reagan's dedication and that great addition to never forget the 275,000 who served and the 58,000 who died in Vietnam. It was truly phenomenal. And finally, my one last connection is Air Force Major Philip Muscari of New Jersey, assigned to the 23rd Tactical Air Support Squadron, who was lost May 2nd, 1969 over Laos and never recovered. He's not a relative. I never met him, but his was the POW MIA bracelet I wore all through high school and college. So to our Vietnam veterans online this evening, I want to recognize your service and sacrifice and be part of the welcome home you so richly deserve. Thank you for wearing the uniform of our country's military and serving selflessly during one of the most tumultuous times in our nation's history. Thank you, and may God continue to bless our troops, our veterans, and their families, and our wonderful country. Thank you so much, Todd.
Thank you, Director Koenig. Thank you very much for that tribute. Larry Googans?
Todd, can I just thank Director Koenig and the VA for the members of our chapter and all of the Vietnam and Vietnam era veterans in Southwestern Pennsylvania. I think we all know, and if we don't, you should know how the VA is taking care of veterans today due to directors like Director Koenig and others throughout the state. I attend Butler VA, but I also go to the CBOC. And Director Koenig, I also want to thank Valor Healthcare. Valor Healthcare mans the CBOCs, 30 of them or thereabouts, I can't remember, throughout our area. And they represent the VA extremely well. And I'm sure he knows that, but you should know that too. But except for one thing, when you look up Valor Healthcare, there's a video. And the video is with Ron Heitzenreiter. He's on the phone. So I want to know, no, I'm just, Ron is of course a member of our chapter. I think he's on here now. He's a Marine and Air Force. I got to pick on him sometime, but I got a kick out of the fact that he was there interviewing probably at the Rochester CBOC, but they're all great. And I just want to thank you for continuing to have a service by Valor Healthcare. They are, as you know, superb. But I just wanted, Todd, thank you for letting me take the time. Thank the VA. They never get thanks. They only get criticized when they do something wrong. But I think I'm in the 2%. They may do 2% wrong in trying to achieve 100%, but the other 98% is superb. We are very fortunate in the Pittsburgh area.
Yes.
In the Southwestern Pennsylvania.
Yes.
I will share that now I am this president of the state VVA, and there are still issues in the other part of the state that that they're working on. But we're way ahead. And thank you, Director Koenig, for that. And I look forward to seeing you again. By the way, he goes to the CBOC. He doesn't sit in an office. He goes to the CBOC, even though there's only what, maybe 20 people there, maybe 25. To talk to us. That is admired, and we admire that. Thank you for what you do.
Thank you so much, Larry. I hope you all have received your COVID vaccines.
Yep.
As you know, President Biden signed last week the Save Lives Act, authorizing the VA to now provide inoculations to every living veteran, whether you're enrolled in VA or not. We hope to open that up to everyone very soon as we get more supplies. But if you're enrolled and receive care at VA now and want a shot, regardless of your age, we've got it. If your spouse can't get a shot, we've got him or her covered also. So thanks very much again. Great pleasure to be with you all.
Thank you, Don.
Can I add something to that? Director Koenig, I'll tell you what, I've been with the VA now probably for over 10 years. I've had multiple procedures done. And sometimes I almost get embarrassed how wonderful your staff and yourself treat me as an individual with such respect, and also with the care that I've got. You know, nothing is ever shortchanged. If you need a test, or, you know, in the outside world, if you need an MRI, you got to jump through 25 hoops to try to get an MRI. The VA says, hey, this young man needs a MRI. We're going to give it to him. And I want to thank you for that, because what people have, a lot of people have a misconception about the VA. And I'll tell you what, it's a shame that they have that. And me, for myself, will always just praise what you're doing at the Pittsburgh VA.
Thanks so much. It's our honor to take care of you. Thank you all.
You know, it's our honor also to have Ryan All with us. Ryan is somebody who really does bridge that divide between the younger generation of veterans and the older generation. Ryan is with the VA Vet Center. He's a really important part of the veterans community here in Pittsburgh. He's an important part of our Veterans Breakfast Club programming. Ryan, I know it was a big day for you. Thank you for joining us tonight and paying tribute to our Vietnam veterans.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much for having me. I'm an Army veteran. I'm a veteran of Iraq. And, this is Vietnam Veterans Recognition Day. And I work at the Vet Center. I owe a lot to the Vietnam veterans of America. I think we all do. And I think that's what today's about. The services that I get as being a veteran, in a lot of ways, can be attributed to the hard work that Vietnam veterans did to assist other veterans when they came home. And so thank you very much for all of that. Even my job, the Vet Center program, was founded by Vietnam veterans. We have a lot of Vietnam veteran clients who come into the Vet Center. We provide free and confidential counseling to them. So I wanted to, rather than telling you too much about what the Vet Center does, you can always find that out. What I wanted to say was, from one veteran to another, thank you very much for everything that you've done. Welcome home. I know you guys didn't get enough of that. And just real quickly, a lot of the Vietnam veterans that I work with and that I speak with, they can talk a lot about what they did in country. They have processed that trauma to the point where they can speak about it, and we can tell war stories to each other about how it was over there. And but sometimes when you ask them what was it like coming home, that's the hardest thing for them to talk about. So I realize that, I recognize that, I know how difficult that transition can be from military service in a war zone to back home. And things like this that the Veterans Breakfast Club put on to help talk about that, to bridge that military civilian divide, to find a common place, a community where you can speak about your experiences with other people who have been through similar things, are extremely helpful. So thank you to Todd and the entire Veterans Breakfast Club staff for putting on something like this. And thank you for letting me be a part of it. So that's all I really wanted to say was thank you, all of the Vietnam veterans and their families, for everything that they have sacrificed for this country. And it's never too late to say welcome home. So welcome home to all of our Vietnam veterans. Thank you very much.
Oh, great, Ryan. Thank you. Man, you're a great guy. I was so grateful to Chu Lei and Ni Nguyen, who, as you could probably tell from their names, they're from Vietnam. They were from the countries that so many of you went to help and try to save. They served alongside with you in the Army of the Republic of Vietnam. Chu as a helicopter pilot, Ni as a surgeon. And they very kindly agreed to come tonight to just let you know what Vietnam Veterans Day means to them. And they think of you often. Ni, Chu, who would like to go first? How have you go first, Ni, because you're unmuted.
Yeah, okay. I will go first. Thank you, Todd, for letting me participate in this remarkable event. Vietnam veteran, on behalf of the South Vietnamese people who fled communism and who are now living in Western Pennsylvania, I would like to extend our greatest appreciation to U.S. veterans as well as their families for the sacrifice they incurred during and in the aftermath of the Vietnam War. I also would like to express our deepest sympathy for the American families which lost their loved one during the Vietnam conflict. May the Almighty Lord have mercy on victims of this war. It is an irony of history that misrepresentation by some documentaries and misperception by TV viewers in the US turn communist invaders into patriots, Samaritan into colonialists, and the victims of aggression into villains. However, victory does not justify the suffering and destruction caused by the war. And certainly, defeat does not take away the noble cause for which American and South Vietnamese have fought side by side. May the Almighty Lord also bless the righteous historian who perceive a right from wrong and the good-hearted people who have tried to mend the wounds of this conflict of ideology, which result in horrible tragedy to American as well as Vietnamese. Amen. Thank you again, Vietnam veteran and Todd, for letting me participate in this event. Thank you.
Oh,
Welcome to America.
thank you, Nee.
Thank you.
And I do want to let people know that, the Veterans Breakfast Club, we do veteran storytelling events, and we do them 3 days a week, Monday nights, Wednesday morning, Thursday nights. And I would love to do a program with veterans of the Army of the Republic of Vietnam, veterans like Nee and like Chu. I would love to have an event like this where they can share their stories. I think it's so important that we hear them. Chu, do you have anything to add tonight? I'll ask you if you want to unmute. Here, I'm going to ask you to unmute if you can, so we can hear you. There we go.
Okay, good evening, everyone. When I joined, when I left the country, and it's a short, I make it real short here. When I joined the Pennsylvania National Guard, I was lucky. I ran into a lot of Vietnam veterans who was flying in my country before, and some of them took me under their wing, and I had a very comfortable time in the Pennsylvania Guard. And in case there are some of them watching this program, I would like to thank every one of them who created a very, very comfortable atmosphere for me to be with them. They treat me really like a brother, and it's a real brotherhood in arms. I never forget that, and I retired in 2006, but I'm still in touch with a lot of them on Facebook, in life, in real life, and I just went up to Indian Town Gap to attend a retirement party of my good friend, General Dave Wood. He's too young to be in the Vietnam War, but he really worked with me a lot with going to the cemetery, and we do it every year on the Vietnam Veteran Day, to the cemetery of the Vietnam vet who spent their life in our country. And I can talk about that all my life. I don't want to stop that, because all of you have left the very comfortable life in this United States and choose to be in the jungle in Vietnam. And a lot of you even was in worse condition than we were in our country. So for those sacrifices, I would like to present you a salute for the honorable service that you perform in our country. And up until now, I'm still working with a lot of them in the Red Rose Honor Guard. We provide service to veteran funeral. And every week I have 1 or 2 funeral to go to, and it's almost bring tears to my eyes every time I had a chance to present the flag to a family member of a veteran who just deceased. And again, I present my salute, and please accept my appreciation. Thank you all the Pennsylvania National Guard who accepted me as a pilot with them, and let me fly in the old beloved Huey. Thank you very much.
Beloved Huey, thank you, Chu. Oh man, I want to have you on again. I want to have both of you on again. Thank you, Chu, and thank you, Nee.
Hey, Todd, this is Pete.
Thank you, Todd.
Hey, Pete Mecca, how are you?
Still kicking after all these years, okay? I think it goes without saying that I need to talk to those two gentlemen.
Yes. Yes.
Not only get them on my radio show, but my third book coming up about all the Vietnam veterans that I've interviewed over the years. It's already approaching 100, and I would love to get their side of the story.
Yes, Pete and I are in a race to see who could interview the most veterans, and so far he's about 200 people ahead of me. So I'm going to have to live a long time.
Hey, Todd, can I say something that you also, he said something about welcoming him. Hey, when you served in our National Guard, you are our brother, and you will be our brother for life. There's no acceptance. You've earned that honor to be one of us. And also fighting with you both in Vietnam as brothers. It's a brotherhood that never can be broken.
Thank
you. Too bad that in 1975 we ran out of ammo, and my gunship never had enough rocket and ammo for minigun, so we get shot left and right because we cannot return fire.
What a
Hey,
story.
Todd, earlier we spoke about the Veller Healthcare, and I'd like to let the folks know about Rachel Harrison Orbanek, and she is the Northeast Director of 14 Veller Healthcare Clinics. She's also a Pennsylvania National Guard, Air Force veteran, a mom, and she certainly is a busy lady for veterans. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Dan McPoyle. You know, our final scheduled speaker is a legend, and he's an inspiration not only here in Pittsburgh, but nationwide. Rocky Bleier became famous as a Pittsburgh Steeler, but after his rookie season, he got drafted into the Army, was sent to Vietnam, and on August 20th, 1969, he was wounded with an enemy rifle bullet in his left leg, and I believe a grenade in his right leg. And I would imagine that even he didn't think he was ever going to play football again, but I remember these details so well because, again, I'm 55 years old. So, you know, I was a child reading Fighting Back and watching the movie and been following his career my whole life. And it's just such an honor to have Rocky Bleier here with us to pay tribute to his fellow veterans. I know he's a very busy person, and I'm so grateful to you, Rocky, for joining us tonight. Now I've got to make sure that he's unmuted here. Rocky, are you with us? I'm looking at all these.
Rocky is here.
There he is. There he is. There he is. Okay. As long as you're with us, we'll get you unmuted. Yeah.
Down here. There we go. Now
there
we got
go.
It.
Thank
there
you.
We go. I apologize. You know, there was a thing on my mind, which was that make sure you mute yourself when you do this, and you got me off guard. And so, welcome home, brothers and sisters. As I said earlier, it's a pleasure being able to be here and share this evening with you today. I had the opportunity to be with Pastor Mike. Larry and John, I think, were there as well, as we had a ceremony over in the North Shore at the Vietnam Memorial to help celebrate this day as well. And so it's fun to be able to carry it over into this evening and hear all the stories that have taken place. You know, that's a great thing about what Todd does. I think it's very important as the Vietnam Veterans Breakfast Club, is the ability to be able to share those stories, because we all have stories of how we got to where we are today, the stories in serving our country. Unfortunately, I think during the period of time in which we were in the military, especially coming back from Vietnam. As was been said, and we lived through it, was that no one really wanted to talk to us. We had repressed those feelings because of the non-support that we had from the population here. And so kind of everybody went underground, and nobody ever shared the stories that became so important. We weren't allowed, were accepted in various organizations, and we were repressed and went about our business as best we possibly could, and then kind of just shut down. And I'm sure you have as well. I've had the opportunity, I mean, talking to our kids or talking to relatives. Yeah, dad doesn't talk about Vietnam, or my uncle never talked about it, or they never talk about those stories. And unfortunately is that becomes a part of who we are, the stories that we share, for a generation to appreciate the veterans and what they've done in the past. So Todd, I thank you for, bringing those stories alive, and they become very important, in all of our lives. I've had the good fortune of only because of the fact, the position that the Steelers allowed me to be in, is that on this 50th anniversary, I had the chance to be able to sit on the advisory committee with Governor Ridge in Washington, D.C., and Jan Scruggs and several others to help support of what the committee was doing, but more importantly, help to put together the 50th anniversary and some of the ideas and foundation which they wanted to attend. And so that became very important. I think that also, Dalal, I was thinking of this. I was thinking of this as you were talking about teaching now back. You're back teaching. Was that in high school? Go back. Now we got to go back because we're old, but we go back. Think about it in high school, and all of a sudden your teacher shows up and is a World War I vet. You go, what? Man, is he? I mean, he's old. Well, that's kind of the relationship I'm sure that you have with your students today. Go, man, all right. But anyway, that's not what I wanted to do, and I really wanted to, and I shared this with the veterans today on the North Shore, just to kind of give an overview, a universal overview of our experiences and what we had gone through. So as I had told them today, and as I share with you this evening, is that, in serving our country, if you think about it, we came from the four corners of this great land, from the north, south, east, and west. And we were dispersed around the world. And those who ended up in Vietnam, well, we found ourselves in I, 2, 3, or 4 Corps. From the DMZ to the Delta, from Cambodia and Thailand to the coastal shore. We wore the patches of the Americal, the 25th, the Big Red 1, the 82nd, 101st, representing the Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marines. We were privates, non-coms, and officers. And we walked point, humped the monkey on our back, and, well, we bitched about the food. We worked the big guns, the mortars and the M60s, and flew support and fighters, gunships, and C-130s. We patrolled not only the rivers of the Mekong, but also the streets of Saigon, Long Binh, Da Nang, and Chu Lai. We belonged to the MPs and S&Ts, intelligence. We were in finance, communication, and personnel. We cared for the wounded and sent the dead home in body bags. In that era, we were 3.5 million strong. We laughed, we cried, and we were afraid to die. We lost family, friends, and loved ones. We were bored, waited for care packages, and sent love letters home. We looked forward to R&R, rotation, and becoming civilians once again. We left one battlefield only to face another. And we fought for our dignity. And went back to making a living. And we became writers and doctors and lawyers and musicians. We went back to the farmlands and the factories. We worked our way up the corporate ladder, or became elected officials. We married or remained single, or got separated or divorced, but we raised our families and moved on. You know, our experiences changed us. We either copped out or we coped. And for those who survived, well, we worked hard and made it. And now that we are of age, we were the ones, if you think about it, who fed this nation and cared for the sick. We were the ones who owned the factories and made the country's decisions. We paid a price. So be proud, not only as Americans, but also as Vietnam veterans, because you deserve it. You did good. So I thank you for allowing me to share this time with all of you and be a part of this group. And Todd, I thank you for all that you do, especially with the Breakfast Clubs and telling those stories, because we all have a story that needs to be told. So enjoy. Thank you.
Thank you, Rocky.
Thanks, Rocky. I heard you this time.
Thank you.
God bless
very
you, Rock.
much, Rocky.
Good job.
Man, absolutely wonderful. Outstanding. Mary Kepper, she is from Baltimore, and she asked here in the chat, asked to me, is that true that you got a postcard from Mr. Rooney while you were in the hospital, and I believe it was Japan, recovering from your wounds, that said, "We need you"?
Sure, yes, it was, if I may answer that question. Yes, it was. And it was, you know, I was there, and the doctor, so, you know, my whole thing was wanting to get back to play, you know, and not knowing how, or what kind of, the extent of the damages and whether or not I could come back. And so I asked him that question that we all would ask, "Doc, what do you think? Can I come back and play?" And his response was a little chuckle, and he said, "Don't worry about it." He said, "You're going to have a normal life. Do what normal people do. Just don't expect to get back in that gridiron. It's because the fact you just won't have the strength nor the flexibility to do the things that are necessary to be running back in the NFL." What he formulated, obviously, was a perception on his part, but as my authority figure, and this is the impact that we have, but as my authority figure, you know, he just sucked that hope right out. 2 days later, honest to God, 2 days later, I got this postcard in the mail, and it had 2 lines on it, and it just simply said this: "Rock, team's not doing well. We need you. Art Rooney." And you go, wow. You know, he didn't have to take the time to do it, but he did it. And, you know, but the interesting thing about it, just to put it in perspective, was that that was his mode of operation. Unlike today, text did not exist back then. Emails did not exist. Cell phones did not exist. You know, so that was his way of texting people. And he did it with a lot of people. He would have dinner with you, and he'd have a postcard, and he would carry this. Now, they only cost 3 cents or something, you know, and he had them in his pocket, and he would write out a note and put it in the mail, and you know, you get a postcard. But that's the way he kept in touch. So.
That's wonderful. I'm so happy to hear that's true and not one of those myths that grows.
No,
I think that's terrific.
That was true.
That's true. Thank you.
Oh, welcome.
Great. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much, Rocky. What
and you know what, Rock? You have been, you may not want to hear it, but you've been an idol to so many of us guys, just with your diligence and hard work, and that it's almost incomprehensible that you were able to get back. And I can still remember you having that 1,000-yard season and thinking, oh my God, how can this young man do this? And what a heart and soul you had to have to accomplish that.
Well, you know, I appreciate that very much, and I'll take as much credit as you're going to give me to gain that 1,000 yards. But in all honesty, I mean, I have to thank one person, and that one person I have to thank specifically is a guy by the name of Joe Turkey Jones, who played defensive end for the Cleveland Browns at that time. And we were playing Cleveland early in the season, and he pile drove Bradshaw into the ground, leaving him like a fish out of water, flapping. And our backup quarterback was Mike Kruschek, who was a rookie at that time. So all of a sudden Bradshaw's out of the picture and Khrushchev comes in. So what they have to do is they have to strip down the whole offensive game plan. And so I think from that point on, now listen, from that point on until Bradshaw came back at the end of the season, in 10 games or probably 10 games, Mike had played, he threw the ball 17 times in 10 games. And so all we did was just run the ball, run the ball, run the ball. The offensive line did a tremendous job. And because of Joe Turkey Jones, I gained 1,000 yards rushing in one season.
Hey, but Turkey Jones didn't have your heart, brother, and you to do what you did, because you wasn't a finesse runner. You was that old.
That's right. They had no moves at all. So, offensive line did a wonderful job.
But you also did too, buddy.
Does anyone else have any more
Pleasure
questions?
sharing the podium today with you down at the.
That was good, John. Yeah, that was fun.
Anybody else have questions or comments for Rocky?
Just go Irish.
Yeah, hopefully one day they can win the big game, but maybe. That's right.
Hey, Rock, why don't you sit down with some of these modern day professionals and teach them how to play with their heart?
They play with their pocketbook, I'm sorry to say.
Yeah.
Roger that.
That's right.
What about that letter you got in training camp?
We were just talking about that today, Rock. Football just ain't like what it used to be.
I mean, the game's changed, obviously, as we've seen it. I mean, guys are bigger and faster than they've ever been before. And, but there's some aspect that has changed and it's hard to, it's really hard to compare even when we were playing, because things were changing during that period of time as well. And, so it's a period that you go through.
Richard King, you had your hand up.
Yes, I had a question for Rocky. Where in Japan were you in the hospital?
So what was the hospitals in Japan? Do you remember?
Yokohama, Atsugi.
Tachikawa.
I remember.
Camp Sama Army Hospital.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because I was stationed in and out. I was stationed in Japan in the naval squadron in and out of Vietnam and Da Nang and back and forth to Japan. And I know you weren't in our hospital.
No, that's right. I can't remember.
It's amazing what you're able to do with those wounds. I'm so proud. I watched the Steelers all the time, and they're great. You were great too.
Rocky, I have a question, Rocky. I just wanted to take a minute and thank you for what you did with the ESPN minutes that you were out there and you did that. That opened my heart and my soul to talking about Vietnam like I have never done before. I truthfully appreciate that, Rocky, and I want to thank you for sharing that very emotional moment with us.
Right. Well, you're welcome. And that emotional moment, for those who saw the ESPN special that we went back to Vietnam, or I went back, and it was a kind of a quick turn. In all actuality, it was a pretty quick turnaround. We got there on a Saturday night, and we were to leave that following Wednesday. So we're trying to get out. So we are now. My questions to ESPN were, okay, fine. Listen. Unlike the majority of you guys that came back as we talked about it and repressed those feelings, went about your life, nobody talked to you about it, nobody cared about you, and the way we were treated by other people. And so I said, but I come back and I come back to a high profile industry. And so all of a sudden I become a story and have to talk about my feelings or what had taken place. So there was somewhat of a catharsis for me for that period of time. And so for the next 40 years, I told the same story, you know, about what had happened. I don't know what to feel when you're going back, when I'm going back. So we go back, and so we're heading back out to the exact area where we had our firefight. And so I'm in an air-conditioned van. We're all sitting in the car. I'm looking out, we're driving. 50 years for those who had been back, 50 years, I don't care where you live, changes. I don't care wherever, it changes. And so all of a sudden there's hustle and there's bustle and there's roadways and there's, you know, buildings that are going up and townships that are taking place. And we're driving from Da Nang to Hep Duck. And so it's about an hour and a half drive. And I'm just looking at and taking all this stuff in. And so all of a sudden we go by a hillside, and so I go, what's that? And they go, well, that's LZ West. LZ West. Well, that was the LZ that we worked out of, or one of them. And I thought to myself, wow, we were in this. This was all jungle down here. I mean, this is, you know, we took sweeps off that mountain down in here, and those were the things that just changed. So then I got out and we finally found the spot where we were, the race paddies that had taken place as best we possibly can. I kind of pictured it. I mean, 50 years is 50 years. The incident that had taken place happened like that. You know, it's not as if you spent time there absorbing it. You're just kind of there. And so all of a sudden, Tom Rinaldi asked me the question, how do I feel? Or how do you feel? And out of left field, all of a sudden I get this reaction from the soles of my feet up through my body. I could just feel it overcoming from an emotional point of view. I mean, to the extent that, oh, I didn't feel well. I mean, and I started to cry, and I couldn't part of my brain was going, what's going on? The other part was emotional about what was taking place. And I just couldn't put them two together, and I'm trying to gather myself because I'm taped, and all of a sudden I tell Tom I'm not feeling well. He said, okay, fine. We walk back to this little area, and I said, I got to sit down. I sit down, and I sit down, and I faint. My blood pressure went boom. I just went boom. It had to be 10 seconds. It wasn't long. I wake up and I see 5 faces going, holy shit, what happened? Oh my God. I mean, what, did he die? What, did he have a heart attack? He just went up like this. And Tom Rinaldi was, you okay? You okay? But on the other hand, on the part of it, Tom was going like, are you okay? Are you okay? And he was looking at the cameras and going, did you get that shot? Did you get that? Are you okay? No. Are you okay? Did you get that? Anyway, so they put this whole thing together, and in the documentary itself, they put together, and they go, well, he suffered heat stroke. And I go, heat stroke? You kidding me? I mean, you kidding me? I mean, heat stroke is like, he's an old guy, okay? He's an old guy, so he went out, it was heat stroke. No, I mean, couldn't you say he was emotionally overcome, by the incidents? No, he couldn't say it. He said, heat stroke. That's really bullshit, Yeah, so that was my experience. That was my experience, but I'm glad I did it. Interesting thing, just offside. Interesting thing, as we're sitting there, we went back and finished a day later. But anyway, as we're finishing up in the same spot, there's this little pathway that didn't exist there before. But there was a Vietnamese gentleman on a little scooter, and I could see him park his scooter, get off, and squat and watch. And so I walk over after we're done shooting, Rinaldi says, why don't you go talk to him? I said, why don't you go get me an interpreter so I can talk to him? You know, see. So I walk over to him, and in broken English, he goes, 4th of the 31st, Bravo Company, July. I go, what? He goes, 4th of the 31st, Bravo Company, July. Well, that was our attachment. We were the 4th of the 31st Infantry. Bravo Company was the company that got hit, that brought us out, ultimately into the firefight, and where I got hit. He was the forward scout for Bravo Company at that period of time. And he lived right up the roadway all these years later. I go, it's fake. You just can't make that stuff up, you know? So it was pretty cool to be able to talk to him for a little while.
What a great story that was to watch. I encourage anybody that has access to YouTube to go out, pull it up, and do that. But you also convinced me at one point in life, I thought I really wanted to go back to Vietnam and visit the spot the same way you did. Right. You convinced me that that's the dumbest damn thing I would ever do in my life.
That's right. I'll find another way.
Yeah, if they have an air-conditioned bus that'll drive me around there.
That's right.
But thank you. That was a very touching piece.
You know what, Rock? You don't even have a clue how many veterans that you helped at that moment, that you were able to show your emotions, that it's not, I don't know how to say the word, but you have to open up and you have to let them emotions out. And to see you, somebody that was an idol to a lot of people, to be able to do that, it opened the door for a lot of veterans to be able to express that emotion.
Yeah.
And that's something that I don't think you realized that you were able to do at that time.
Yeah. I didn't think about it at that time, you know, but I thank you, you know, because it is difficult. I mean, it is difficult. And so, you know, now I get to the point, okay, fine, let's be all honest. Now I get to the point where, you know, I think about those things, then they all run together, you know, not only the Vietnam experience, but any emotional thing that comes up. Do you guys find yourself crying more often than not? Or I mean, some song comes up, you know, whatever it is, I'm going, oh my goodness gracious, you're old. Anyway.
But it was a release, Rock. You know, it's a
yes, it was. Yeah. Yes.
Where we fought that back and said, oh, you know, I'm a Marine, or I'm a Ranger, or I'm a this and that. You know, that didn't bother me. That's bullshit.
Well, that's right. You know, the interesting thing was that just, you know, if you don't have that, I didn't expect that outlet. I mean, I wasn't looking for that outlet, but all of a sudden it happened to me. And I'm thinking, from the average guy who served and came back and just never had that chance to be able to either express or break down or cry about it or whatever with a person or a situation, you know, I'm sure it's got to be a difficult thing, and you just, you know, you keep it all inside. You know, part of it, that's what Todd does. I mean, but, you know, just to be able to tell those stories, or any story, it becomes, you know, I always tell people this, and because you know, serving, no matter what branch, where you were, at what time, is that we all have the same experience. I said, it's like being in the locker room. You know, I don't care whether it's junior high or high school or college or the pros, it's all the same. I mean, the locker room is a locker room. Basic training is basic training. Being in the military is still being in the military, and all those stories just run into one another. And it's something that we all share, but it's something that one should talk about, because You don't have to be in combat to be a hero, just serve and have a good time. And because everybody has a story of one nature or another of where they were stationed, something took place, that's funny and or serious. And so that's all a part of who we are.
Well, like I said, Rock, you've helped a lot of Vietnam veterans sort of break down that shield that we held up. Like, well, we can't cry because that makes us less masculine.
That's right.
And that's bullshit. You got it.
That's right.
And I really thank you for being able to, I want to say, expose yourself to the world on a documentary and how much that meant to so many people.
That's right. Well, as you're military, you break down, you start to cry, but then all of a sudden you start thinking, well, geez, I'm really not the Air Force. I mean, I'm a man. I served our country.
This is what a wonderful conversation this is. I'm loving it. I'm looking at the clock and I see we're coming up on 9 o'clock, which will be, we'll have been on for 2 hours. I was going to do a roll call of all the Vietnam veterans. That was part of the program. But I thought instead, let's do this. If I would really want to invite anybody who's on today and who's a veteran to join us on Wednesday morning at 9 a.m. It's the same Zoom link here that you have. Would love to continue this conversation. And I want to especially recognize if you're a veteran who has not joined us before here on Zoom or on Facebook, please do come Wednesday morning if you're available at 9 a.m. and would love to hear more of your story. And I see some veterans here that I know that I haven't seen in a while. Carl Truss, he was laughing, Rocky, when you said that the guy said, get the shot, because he's a videographer. He's a filmmaker, so he knows the importance of getting the shot. Please, and I thought, I'd like to show a couple pictures, though, of a couple veterans we have here, because they are veterans, but we haven't had any women veterans share their stories tonight. Kathleen Miller is with us. Kathleen, how are you? And I love this uniform. You look great. Let's see, we'll give you a chance to unmute if you can do it.
That was commissioning day in Newport, Rhode Island. 1971.
How about that? And where were you off to after this, after you were commissioned?
I went to Naval Air Station Corpus Christi, and I worked in aircraft maintenance. And then I asked to go to the West Coast, and they sent me to the West Coast of Africa to Kenitra, Morocco.
Sent you to the West Coast, but it was the wrong West Coast, huh?
Oh, that was up northwest of us.
And we had a program, a joint Arab American program in Morocco, and I taught Moroccan military how to speak English so they could fly American C-130s and C-131s.
Oh, how neat. How neat. Well, thank you for joining us, Kathleen.
You're welcome. This is very interesting. We had a nice ceremony today also at the Memorial in Beaver.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. And we have the, if I haven't said it already, the welcome home boxes were put in the, were sent on Saturday. Some of you have received them already. Yes. Some of you have not, and you will receive them. If you haven't, Steve Foreman, I know, well, you're in Long Beach, California, Steve Foreman. So it's going to take a while to get to you. If you don't get it though, Steve, let me know, okay?
Yeah, I haven't received. I even went just this afternoon to check, and it wasn't there. So I'm waiting.
I know it was somebody's fault that it was got at UPS late. I don't know. I don't know whose that was. If I find him, I'll make sure to chew him out. All right.
No problem, Lieutenant.
What did you say? I'm sorry.
He said, you have to take the blame, Lieutenant.
Yeah, I think I do take the blame. Jesse Ferrari. Jesse, are you with us still? Thought I'd show Jesse's wonder. Oh, there you are, Jesse. Hi. Thank you for joining us. I wanted to show this wonderful picture of you, Vietnam veteran who served in Thailand at Karat. Was it, Jesse?
Well, this is actually in Biloxi, Mississippi, but with these two friends. But I served in Takli and Karat in Southeast Asia.
Takli and Karat. And what do you remember of your homecoming, coming back home after being overseas?
Well, I had a very different experience because I was in second class, and the stewardess, they set me up front in first class. Are you able to hear me?
Yeah, that's a good thing. Wow.
Yeah.
You were put in first class.
So I thought that was very nice.
So that's good.
And coming back from from overseas, the plane was shot at while we were crossing a certain area, and we stopped in Japan, and then traveled all the way home. But
you were shot at as your plane was leaving.
Yes. Well, it was in air somewhere. I don't know where it was at. But the stewardess were very nice, to sit me up in first class, and I didn't have any problems whatsoever coming back.
Richard, I'm sorry, Jesse. As you were talking, I was looking in the Richard Kaufman. You're joining us for the first time, Portland, Oregon, and you just said 9 a.m. on Portland, Oregon. What time would it be there, Richard?
I think that would be 6 a.m. if you're Eastern time.
Well, that's, you should be able to get up at 6 a.m. You're Air Force.
Hey, come on now.
Seriously, I'm sorry, Richard. I should not. Thank you so much for joining us. Can you tell us a little bit about your service?
Sure. I was sent to Vietnam in 1971, and I ended up being an advisor to the Vietnamese Air Force. So I spent most of my time embedded with them and taught them how to take care of the C-7A Caribou. And I also flew on missions with Vietnamese helicopter pilots, which I have several pictures that I took. I was the only American on the crew of 5 airships. So that was quite an experience, and I really enjoyed it with the Vietnamese. I learned how to speak Vietnamese, but I've since mostly forgot most of it. But yeah, I have some really funny times that I could probably tell some of the time.
Please
do, Richard. Where were you in Vietnam? I started out at Cam Ranh Bay. They sent me down to Ton Son Nhut, and I finished up at Phu Cat. At that time, the air base was given to the Vietnamese, and they realized they couldn't take care of the aircraft, so they grabbed a bunch of us and sent us up as advisors, and I spent most of my tour there. It's 1971, 72. It was the Easter offensive when they really started to come down from the north, and that was I think every installation got hit Good Friday or on Easter. We got hit Good Friday.
Richard, I believe you gave me your email. I want to make sure you join us again some evening, not in the morning, but in the evening, so we could hear more of your story.
Sure. I mean, my dog gets me up at 6, so I can get up in the morning. I'm all right.
Okay. I do. Sue Watson says we could do the roll call. You want to try it? Start with Ken Rizicki. I'll call you out. Ken Rizicki.
Hey, how you doing, Todd? Hello, everybody. Welcome home, brothers and sisters. Thank God you made it home safely. Thanks for having my back when I was there. 1968 in Fubai, 1969 in Dong Ha up in northern I Corps. One little story about coming home. The closest I came to being killed was on the parkway coming from the airport back to my home. My dad was in the front seat. He was driving and he had his hands on the steering wheel. We're going 55 miles an hour down the parkway and he kept turning around to look at me in the back seat. Ken, how you doing? How you doing? Dad, watch where you're going.
Okay, you're just proved my point. We cannot do the roll call because everybody has a story to share and it's too late. So, please, okay, so let's do this. I see Bill Silver. Oh my gosh, the stories that we have, the history that we have gathered right here before us is just amazing and awesome and important. Let's try and get together again and finish up some of these stories here. Maybe we could even do that next week. So, but certainly Wednesday, whoever can join us, we want to continue this conversation. I want to thank Rocky Blyer again for joining us and making this really special event, as well as Nee and Chu and Megan Reagan again with Humana. Thank you so much. Larry Googans, John Weinheimer, VVI, VVA62, and Doug Frazier from Heartland Hospice. Thank you so much. We'd like to close with a benediction from a Vietnam veteran, Ben Wright, who retired from the Air Force and then became an Episcopal priest and then retired from the priesthood. And here is I'll share a picture of you, of Ben. And you could give our benediction, Ben, if you wouldn't mind. And then we're going to have another veteran, Michelle Wilcox, Navy Corpsman, close us out with God Bless America.
Hey, well, it's an honor. Well, let us pray. Oh, Lord God, King of the universe, we give you thanks and praise for the men and women who serve and who have served in the armed forces of the United States of America. For those who in the day of decision have ventured everything for the liberties we now enjoy. This night, we especially give our most hearty thanks and appreciation for the many women and men who so faithfully served in the U.S. military engagement in Vietnam. We commend to your gracious care in keeping all who serve in the U.S. military at home and abroad. Defend them day by day with your heavenly grace. Strengthen them in their trials. Keep the many who are in harm's way safe. Grant them courage to face the perils which beset them and bring them home safely. We ask your strength, comfort, healing, and restoration in body, mind, and spirit for the many who have been wounded or injured in any way. We especially ask your richest blessing and healing presence to those who grieve because of the many who have given their very lives for our sake. For the benefit of all who are participating in this event, may the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace this night and forevermore. We pray in the most holy name of your Son, our Savior, the Lord Jesus Christ. Amen.
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 Thank you very much, Ben. And Michelle Wilcox here. I'm going to share one of my favorite pictures ever. And this is a picture of Michelle. Let me make sure I get this here. Oh,
That's
no,
not me.
Ron.
That's not me either. Come on, you can do it. There you go. Oh God, I remember that girl. Kind of, sort of. That was a long time ago.
Now, I know that you are a hospital corpsman. Did they still have the Navy waves back when you joined, or was that?
No, the Navy waves technically ended in 1946 when the I think it was Truman made us actually part of active service, but they still called us waves. I mean, we were waves. There's no way around it. I mean, I think they actually quit calling waves in 72, but they still called us waves.
They still called you waves.
Yeah.
If you're listening to that.
All right. Michelle, would you mind leading us out with God Bless America?
I would be honored to. think I remember the words. As the storm clouds gather far across the sea, let us swear allegiance to a land that's free. Let us all be thankful for a land so fair, as we lift our voices in this solemn prayer. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the ocean, white with foam. God bless America, my home sweet home. God bless America, my home sweet home.
You know, it is almost impossible to pull off a group song on Zoom.
You noticed that. I like the echo, though. It was kind of like, taps with the echo.
We came really, really close, though. That was about the best that you could hope for. That was wonderful. Thank you, Michelle.
You're quite welcome.
And thanks to all of you once again for joining us. What a special night this was. I hope to see you on, raise a glass to our Vietnam veterans. Thank you very much for your service.
Tiger Bear.
Oh, yes. Some of you got the black label. Some of you got Tiger. Some of you got black label.
Yeah.
Can I tell you before we go, I was unloading those boxes. One of them started leaking.
Wasn't mine.
No, well, listen what happened. It was a Carling black label. Those cans are so cheap. That aluminum is so thin that the P-38 touched it and put a pinhole in it. And I had to send that separately. So
Todd.
Dan Vaughn.
I just want to thank God for having this evening so that all the vets tell their stories. It was really nice. Thank you very much, Todd.
Yes.
Thank you, Dan.
Very nice. Thanks, Todd.
Thank you. Thank you,
This is
Todd.
better than I remember.
Yeah, thanks.
This was fun. This was fun. I hope to see you Wednesday morning. All right.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank
Take
you,
care.
Bob. Thank you for the
Good night,
ball.